All right, hello everyone. Please let me know if the audio is fine. We're here for a live Q&A. It's been quite a while since we had a proper stream, so we figured this would be a good time to take some questions. I'm not alone. I'm here with Windhunter. Let's check your mic as well.
Hello, everybody. I'm
Right.
Windhunter, excited to be here.
And I'm Majora, the project coordinator and community manager. If the audio is not well, please say it in the chat, and Ultralord behind the scenes will try to fix it. We plan to talk for about an hour, but it will probably be a bit longer because you guys kindly submitted quite a lot of questions. We have a couple of categories to go through. We will start with some general questions, then we have some map questions regarding the new campaign maps, some card questions, the lightning round, where we just go through a couple of quick questions. Then we talk a lot about the season. We have the season 2 review for you guys, and then at the end we also have a live Q&A. So quite a lot of stuff to talk about. I'd say let's get started with the very first question. Many of you are wondering how many people are working on Skylords Reborn. We have about 40 people in the core team, I'd say, but there are also a lot of people working behind the scenes in positions like art feedback, proofreaders, map testers, all kinds of stuff. So in practice, I'd say about 50 people. Sometimes people are a bit of inactive due to holidays and stuff like that, but about 50 people work on Skylords Reborn over the years, and we're nearing our 5th year anniversary, so that's pretty awesome.
A while.
Yeah. And then another question that came up is how hard is this project for you guys to do in your free time? Yeah, quite challenging sometimes. All of us are basically players from the old days. So it's really a passion project. Can be a bit tricky to balance with real life responsibilities, of course. And we have a team spread out all over the globe. So we also have to account for time zones, real world events, obviously. People getting married, getting kids, having exams, all kinds of stuff. And we have recently introduced the season as also a way for us to have a bit better time frame to bring content to you guys and work through our backlogs. And we will talk a lot more about scenes later in the stream, of course. Then there was an interesting question on the forum, why the login screen still says welcome to BattleForge and why it does not say Skylords Reborn, and why the currency is not called Skylords points, but still BattleForge points. This actually came up quite a few times during the years. There's not a strict reason we haven't changed it. It's also a bit like, at what point is it still BattleForge and at what point is it still Skylords Reborn? As Windhunter mentioned in the past, we view ourselves as stewards of the game. So we feel that nostalgia is a big part of the reason why we are still here, why you are all here. And it didn't feel correct to basically erase every mention of BattleForge and pretend it's a completely new game. So that's mostly why we still have BattleForge mentioned everywhere. But the IP is still from EA, so we also don't want to infringe on their copyright, which is why we have the Skylords Reborn name on our marketing materials. And then the last general question is regarding the PvP tournament. A while ago we had a PvP programming contest, and one of you asked what we think about the future of AI teammates and enemies. The contest was quite successful, but it takes quite a lot of time to get a proper AI bot to work, and it's currently not on our roadmap. If you guys are interested in this a lot, be sure to mention it, both on the forum and in our yearly feedback survey, because then we might be able to bump it up on the roadmap. But currently PvP is not big enough to warrant a full focus on this feature. But it was very popular among the people who participated in it, and we definitely see the appeal, because a lot of you mentioned they want to play PvP, but it's a bit intimidating to immediately play against all the old veterans. So it is on our list of ideas, but it's not high on the roadmap at the moment. That's all the general questions out of the way, and then we can go into the map-specific questions, where mostly Windhunter will do the talking. The first question was, all new campaign maps so far use unique mechanics to unlock additional orbs. Will future campaign maps contain more traditional orb spots, or do you plan to have more unique orb obtaining mechanics? Windhunter, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so it's kind of just a question of what fits the story, what fits the map. And we thought it would be a fun idea to make the Ami monuments actually in the Ami city, because where else would they be? And so that was just kind of became a way to put the monuments in the city in kind of a safe spot, but still also connect them to an external kind of mechanic with the power shrine. So that was just kind of a mechanical idea that we thought was a cool flavor. And then Into the Jungle was just another kind of lore fun thing. See, like every BattleForge map has a little bit of like a gimmick to it, or some kind of mechanic that's like semi-unique to that map, even if it's just the death ray spawner. So we tried to maintain that in all of our new maps to kind of give them all kind of a unique flair and something that makes them that it makes it a map you'd want to go back and play and kind of sticks in your mind. And Viridia's island doesn't have any Ami, so it actually doesn't in story make any sense that there would be any monuments or any well. And so because we already just saved the Ami, we thought it'd be really kind of fitting as an escort mission to have them build the wells and orbs for you, but also it was a great way that you actually had to interact with kind of the escort mission. So that was that. And Heart of Trouble was kind of just like an accident, really. So when we were first designing the map, the spawns from each side used to come continuously, and we just didn't want to put the orbs in a place you had to defend them. So we thought it'd be easier just to put the orbs inside the base. But as you know, as it kind of developed over basically a year, we just were used to putting the orbs inside the base, and we just balanced around that. So what began as kind of an accidental feature just became a normal thing. But we have, I think we have other maps in development right now where there's no weird orb mechanics. Like there's completely like a normal way you see orbs like on Encounters of Twilight or Crusade or Blight. So there's definitely going to be a return to normalness, but we'll do special things when they fit. It just depends on the map.
All right, makes sense. Before we move to the next question, I forgot to mention in the intro that at the end of the Q&A, we also have the live Q&A. But you can already leave your questions in the chat, and we'll just get to them at the end of the stream. Okay, so for the next question, someone asked if we plan to balance maps around strong strategies like Mine, Shadow Phoenix, and Netherwarp, which often break originally the design of the intended way the maps are supposed to be played.
Yeah, so I think this is a really good question, and it's a really hard question to think about. It's if you look at the first camp on Heart of Trouble, there's flying units, for example, and there's also a bandit sniper on the side. And this is more or less how we try to design around Mine. The problem becomes these strategies are strong for a reason. And if you try to balance a lot of maps around these strategies, you can make less viable factions, worse to play. And so I feel like you have this balancing act you have to go between, which is, okay, do I want to try to balance around Shadow Phoenix or Mine or Netherwarp? But by doing that, would I make something like Pure Nature or Stonekin have a worse experience of this map? And so that's one of the really big questions that we have to face. And for Heart of Trouble specifically, Heart of Trouble, we designed the map on purpose so that it was kind of every faction had kind of like a cheat code on the map. And I'm not sure how many people have kind of discovered all these, because obviously we have the fire season, people are playing fire. But I think especially as we start, kind of expanding the other factions for the other seasons, people will get to play it more in these different things. Like you obviously have Mine, or say like Suppression helps a lot when fighting against like the northern camps, because you can turn off the artillery. That's kind of the really big threat when you go north in Heart of Trouble. But if you play something like Stonekin, you can, use Matter Mastery on every single one of the buildings in the south. And that really, really helps you progress. If you're nature, you can just put a Mark of the Keeper. It'll block every flyer, every flying unit from the bottom. So you can just quite literally not have a defense down bottom, just put Mark of the Keeper and your towers up top will kill it. And so we tried to design the map kind of so that every faction you could find where it was strong. That was generally our idea for what we prefer to do. And so when we can't, like something like Netherwarp, we do try to balance around because we don't want you just completely skip the map in a way that's unexpected. But hey, if it happens, it happens, right? We want to allow speedrunners to still have fun playing with the map. And a lot of our map testers end up being speedrunners. And so they kind of help us. Sometimes we kind of allow some of these skips and stuff like that in there because we want them to still have fun. We want people to have things to discover in the map. And some of them we take out. So I think, again, it's just going back to, should we balance around these but make other factions have a worse experience? Or, can we just instead what I try to do, it's hard though, we use our map testers or other map designers like Herdina and Rabbit, myself and Radical. We try to instead give every faction a place in the map where they can feel strong. So that's it.
Right. Then there was another question about Heart of Trouble. It's the first map where we actively make use of allies that fight alongside you, but people mentioned they are kind of underwhelming. Was this intended?
Yeah, so it's hard to put AI units into a map because you can in some sense have the ones the player controls on Slave Master, and a lot of new players get kind of confused sometimes, and they end up just forgetting their slaves are under their control. So obviously there's one kind of option. So similar problem with Empire that we actually just recently fixed is that people just forget that they had to move Rogan to the center, and everyone else in the game would be like just trying to ping them and say like, hey, move them. That doesn't seem to be working. And so there's there's always kind of problems. I know. So we tried this map is we wanted to make it a one-player experience. We wanted to allow people to decide which way they go. I mean, obviously, Heart of Trouble is very unique because the camps dynamically change strength based on destroying other camps. So if you destroy camps in the north, the camps in the south get stronger. But also, if you destroy the camps in the north, they add things from those camps to the wave when you attack the south. So when you start going south, if you destroy the north, you get the bandit cannoneers. And if you destroy the south, which is the flying part, and you go north, you suddenly get sky rakes, stuff like that. So, but the problem becomes, okay, they walk the same way every single time. How do you, and you don't have control over it. So how do you get this to work? And our thought process is we tested it many times. We wanted it so that the player felt like there was some real aid that could happen, but they couldn't play the map for the player. And so one of the big things we tested with every single faction is the first camp that they fight, right? And so when you're going towards the center and you're fighting that first camp, so those first kind of waves that you're getting, we tested that you could heal your allies, you could place a mine for them, you could place a frost gift for them. Sadly, I mean, Shadow doesn't have as much support options. But one option you have with Shadow is you can kind of warp in with Witch Claws and kind of gather up all of the corpses and kind of use that for an explosion. So we tried to make it so that each faction had a way to interact with the ally unit. And one of the big things with the ally units is they have ground presence. So you can cast spells from the ally units, which is a really big thing. So, I mean, this question was originally asked about Stonekin, and I actually loved testing this map with Stonekin because I would start with, I would spawn 3 Crystal Fiends, and I would just have the enemies go south. And as they were going south, I wouldn't even have a unit really with it. I would just be casting Matter Mastery. And I remember in one of my last tests before we released the map, I had 1 Storm Singer, and I had like 4 Crystal Fiends, and I killed the boss just by using Matter Mastery on the anti-air towers. So I felt like that was a good kind of spot that it was in, just kind of casting Ray of Light, doing this, giving spells for them. I've also done that a lot with, one of my other favorite ways to play this map was playing with Fire Frost. And I used Lyrish Knights and then Giant Slayers. Actually, my entire deck had no ranged units until tier 4. So I thought it was that was kind of a fun challenge I gave to myself, especially because of the flying units and also the cannons. And I found that was really nice because you could use things like Inferno and Lava Field to try to keep them alive. Or like you could shield them. They're actually great with Soulstone. The allies are absolutely superb at Soulstone. So, it kind of depends on the faction, right? With some factions, they are pretty underwhelming. Other factions can kind of buff them up more substantially. I think they're fun to use with Unity, for example, because it gives them a lot more survivability. You can also just use them a way to block the waves coming in. And obviously they do become more underwhelming because while the allied wave scales, it scales less strongly than the enemy wave. So it's stronger earlier, weaker later. So yeah, I feel like we tried to hit a really good balance here. But it's a difficult balance to hit. As someone just mentioned in the chat, Fountain of Rebirth and Soulstone. Yeah, you can use both of those because the allies are designed so you can directly cast spells upon them. And we're continuing to experiment with this. Like we have another map that's the one coming after Heart of Trouble in the series. And we're also trying to experiment how to use allied waves, but in a way maybe you have more control over them. Because some people were just kind of frustrated because they seem like they kind of kamikaze themselves into the center. So we're still experimenting, we're still trying, and I think they can feel underwhelming, but I also think if you kind of develop strategies to work alongside of them, they can feel pretty strong, like I said with Soulstone, for example, or Unity, or like just spam Crystal Fiends with them. I've had a lot of success in all of these different strategies.
Yeah, and as you mentioned before, like I think there are also a big spotlight on the fire part of the because of season. Everyone is playing it mostly with fire, and there's still a lot left to explore with other elements as well.
Yeah, I mean definitely, and even with fire, right? You can class Fire Force on like the big guy. Like that was a big thing. I was doing when I was playing with my Lyrish Knight deck. I was casting Fire Force on the Hornblower, and yeah, pretty good.
Right. Then there was a question that comes up quite often regarding featured community maps. We already made some changes to make them stand out more, but there was a question if we considered having their own map. From my point of view, I believe one of the reasons we don't is that then you can't see at first glance which maps are open, but maybe you can elaborate on that a bit as well.
Yeah, so I think this is a good point, right? We want people to feel encouraged to play community maps. I think a lot of the community maps are very high quality, especially some of the more recent ones some of our map designers or players have kind of put in. And I really enjoyed that. Like I've enjoyed like the Dwarf and Stronghold rework that Wenky did for kind of us, and then some of the other ones. Like I enjoy an Expedition South a good amount. I think Lyrish Uprising is a fun map. And it is true they're kind of like tucked out of the way. So a lot of people have asked if they can put them like on a second map. And in EA days, there was a period of time where there was actually a second map. I think it was split between like standard and expert, standard and advanced and expert, but I can't exactly remember. And it was hard. It was hard to find maps because like you wouldn't know where to look. There was all these different tabs. You could get like lost and confused, and so I think there's definitely a way we could improve this, but I don't think it's obvious to us in the way we have. What I'd like to do long term is kind of two things. We're trying to give rewards for playing the community maps as part of the seasons, so I think that helps people play them more and realizing that you can get it, because a lot of people didn't realize, even until this season, that you got BattleForge and gold rewards. BattleForge points and gold rewards from playing the community maps. And so you can actually just play these and progress in a similar way as when you're playing random PvE. It's not as good. It's about 10 to 15% less rewards, but it's still pretty good, right? And even, I know some people were kind of mad that we added this map onto the thing, but the last Soul Tree map, like you actually get, the longer you survive, the more gold you get. But I think one thing that would help this eventually, is I would really enjoy if on the world map somewhere there was like a list on the side and it showed there was a list on the side and it showed all open lobbies. So you could just at a glance, don't have to look over the map at all. It would just say, oh, random PvE for open lobby, you know, expert Guns of Lyre open lobby, you know, standard Crusade open lobby. And someone's mentioning standard quests with community maps. Actually, you do get rewards for community maps from your daily quest from community. There's not ones that tell you to play it, but there's another option. And about the experience with the community maps, we definitely could do that. We could definitely add experience to community maps. That's a good idea. And I think that may be another way to kind of promote people to see these. But I really think there has to be some way that we have to visualize all the open lobbies. And this question goes on to another one, which is that we're adding more maps and we're running out of map space. So we're gonna have to figure out some way to show the new maps that we're adding. And I think when we do that, it might be an opportunity to give community maps a more prominent place.
Yeah, and to quickly add to that, as you mentioned shortly, there were some complaints about Lost Soul Tree being part of the season now. There's always this tricky balance between some people want us to more actively involve the community maps, and others are like, yeah, but this is below the normal quality, so why is this even an official reward track option? So it's always something we continue to explore. And for those who are not aware, every single installation comes with a copy of the map editor. So if you ever want to build maps and want to get your own featured community map, you can definitely do so. There's also a guide on the forum by Rabbitfoot. Okay.
He's got a great guide.
Yeah, it's a great guide, definitely. Okay, a completely different topic, but one that gets asked every single feedback survey we put out. What is the status of defense RPVE?
Oof. Would you say, Major, this was our biggest mistake in announcing something?
Absolutely, yeah. We've gotten a lot better at expectation management, but this one constantly bites us in the ass. Yeah, it's a tricky topic.
I think we might have announced it 4 years ago and still not around.
I believe it was part of one of my first community updates, yeah.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I feel bad. So obviously we are working on it. We've actually had a pretty good big breakthrough recently with one of our main map designers, Rabbitfoot. And it's hard, though. So we did have a defensive random PvE that was about 90% done. So it was about 90% done. Probably about 2 years ago, maybe even 2.5, 3 years ago. And the problem became that we realized we didn't know how to design defense. And what happened was that the map became really cheesable with certain strategies, and then kind of became boring. You know, it was fun. We really should have put it in a community maps we might do in the future. But it was fun for like 3 or 4 runs, but then got kind of stale. And that's not what we want to happen in the mode. And so we were still trying to figure out what that looks like. And they were trying to balance around the fact that spells are way too strong on defense. And things like Worldbreaker Gun and Comet Catcher are very strong on defense. So then we were suggesting, putting in like spell blockers, but we felt like that was against the spirit of the game. And it was kind of a mess. And we really didn't know how to salvage the map. We didn't know how to deal with the situation. And so we kind of have started again from scratch. So I would say we are working on it, but I have to sadly say it probably would be at least a year before we kind of see it. I would say if we get a beta version done, we'll probably release it similar to what we did with infected maps. Kind of a beta, get some feedback from the player base, get some things, but it's difficult to design a defensive situation that's fun consistently and also is random. And our current mode is 2-player. Current mode is 2-player, and it probably would only be 2-player as of right now. But we don't know in the future, so we're working on it. It's definitely a priority for us. But it's really, really hard to balance. I'll just say that defensive random PvE is extremely hard to balance. And so I'm hopeful we can get it out. And we're also working on another game mode that we're not ready to announce yet. That I think people will be really excited for when we do announce. But yeah, maybe next year, kind of mid 2026, we can announce some some good progress on this, but it's really hard. And we're sorry that we mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we also backed ourselves in a corner that the longer it goes on, the higher the expectations get, and why, like you said, it's extremely hard to. It's not that hard to make a defense map. The problem is how are you gonna make it fun repeatedly and have enough different strategies, and not like, oh, you solved it and now the content is kind of done. I think people look at RPVE and think, well, just do that, but then defense. But it's not that simple. So. But it is definitely, I believe, currently, after the release of new cards and new maps, the highest requested feature. So we're definitely aware of that. And yeah, hopefully more news soon, but not as soon as we would have hoped. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
So then there's a question that so far 2/3 of the new maps are 2-player. And Heart of Trouble was, of course, 1-player. Do we have plans to release new 1-player, 4-player, or even 12-player campaign maps in the future?
Yeah, so definitely. So in development right now, we have a 4-player map, a 1-player map, 2-player. So that's definitely be more of those. We're definitely working on that. It's exciting stuff. So 1-player, 2-player, 4 maps, you can expect all of those. I would say it's a bit annoying to balance a 4-player map because you have to have a lot of maps. And it's hard for me to play it by myself, and I'm in America, and other map testers are basically in Europe. So that's a bit frustrating, but we're good progress. Actually, working on two 4-player maps. But 12-player maps, I'm just going to say we will never be adding a 12-player map to the game again. In fact, a lot of players have asked us, so we surveyed the player base, and you know what percentage it was, Major? I think at least 60% said that they wanted us to split them apart.
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact number, but it was quite high. And I believe part of that was also that people were not really sure how it would look like. But everyone was in consensus that especially Ascension, or no, Passage to Darkness, has no business being a 12-player map.
I mean, yeah, it's just a 4-player map with a non-functioning map gimmick.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, no more 12-player maps. We're going to release the 12-player maps, Ascension and Passage to Darkness. We're releasing 4-player variants, but we're also going to leave the 12-player variants in. So we're going to release the map 1, map 2, and map 3 for Ascension, but then just a normal Passage to Darkness because there's no difference between the 3 maps. But no more 12-player maps in the future. Also, there's the player. I mean, we have a stable player base for 4 years now. It's been very stable, but we don't have the player base to kind of 12-player. And also, let's just be honest, it's very frustrating to be playing like map 1 or map 3 or map 2 in Ascension, and one person messes up for 30 seconds and the whole map's lost like 25 minutes in. It's just very frustrating. And we think that it'd be hard to make a good 12-player map that also wouldn't have that interaction, those kind of interaction maps, and it'd also be.
Yep, that makes sense. All right. Enough about maps for the moment. Moving on to card questions. I mentioned the most anticipated game mode is definitely Defense RPVE, but the most anticipated faction is definitely Fire Frost. In the past, we already mentioned that there were some technical limitations because of the fact that there is simply not a card frame available for it. As many of you know, we don't have the source code, and the reason we were able to do AMI was because EA actually released AMI Phantom. But as you might have noticed, it took us a long time to be able to have AMI buildings because there was no building animation. And for Fire Frost, there was literally nothing. So for the first couple of years, there was literally no possible way for us to include a new faction into the game. We have made some progress there, but we're not there yet. And maybe you can elaborate further, Windhunter.
Yeah, so possible for us to add Fire Frost cards at this point. So we would like to start and that's been possible for a little bit now, but we didn't want to start working on adding Fire Frost cards until we felt that AMI was in a good place. And so we have a lot of AMI cards kind of on the back burner, already designed, already in the artwork processing, already being implemented. And so we would really like AMI to be a fully playable faction before we start releasing Fire Frost cards. And we think we're very close to that right now. So that's very exciting. And on part of that, so we've been discussing is we plan to begin work on Fire Frost cards very soon. But the problem is we need to figure out an art direction for the faction. And when we were working on the art direction for Ami, it took us over 6 months. Additionally, one of the things that we kind of feel we did poorly with Ami is that, we released a bunch of like one-off cards. So like, the card that I am right now in the stream, Transcendence. We released it, we released Tranquility, we released Ami Paladins, and, they were all good cards, but they didn't have things to go with. I mean, Transcendence needed a lot of balancing, but, the other ones, like, they're solid cards, but a lot of them aren't PvE cards. They're kind of, Tranquility and Ami Paladins were PvP cards, Ami Phantom was really a PvP card. So we really feel like people didn't start enjoying Ami until was it Rise of the Ami? What was the patch called?
Echoes of the Ami.
Echoes of the Ami, yeah. So we got to release all the tier 4 cards, and we really didn't feel like people enjoyed the faction, kind of pay attention to then. And so we would, even if we had a Fire Frost card right now, we wouldn't want to release it because we'd really, really would enjoy to kind of release 3 or 4 good Fire Frost cards. So at least players could play it in tier 3 or tier 4 or something like that. Probably at least 2 units, if not 3 units, and at least 1 spell. And do we have ideas? Yeah, actually, we have 4-year-old ideas on this. In fact, we probably have like 6 or 7 cards already designed for the faction. We don't have a faction ability yet. We would like to kind of release a few of the cards and then kind of get community feedback on what people think the faction kind of ability should be. We think that's the better idea. We don't have an active ability in the way that, say, like Lost Souls or Twilight could, so we think it might be a good idea to release a few cards, people get an idea of what we're going for, we get other people's feedback so we know what to change, so what people are interested in kind of going towards, and then kind of just ask the community, like, what do you guys think of passive? I think that might be a good contest idea. What is the passive? And like maybe that'd be a far future though. And so I think that's one idea. I don't know, Majora, do we want to mention what we plan on making the faction? Or maybe this should stay hidden? People like speculating.
Yeah, I think we would be able to share more about it in the future, but since we're basically gonna start exploration design, I don't think it's a good idea to announce that yet, because then you get the whole defense RPV thing again.
Exactly. It's not okay, guys. Not Aqua Faction. I'm sorry. It's not Aqua Faction.
We can confirm it's not Aqua Faction.
Not Aqua Faction. That's one of the big. That's the meme, right? That it's Aqua Faction, so it's not.
Yeah. For now.
For now, yes. Who knows?
Who knows? Right. All right. So then the next question is kind of obvious, since we are not yet able to release those. What cards or factions are planned to be reworked next?
Wow, you put Sleet Storm first? This feels like an attack on me.
Yeah, I don't know, man. We run out of images.
Well, it's funny actually. I think Sleet Storm, was one of those cards that people asked for kind of rework, and I think even it could see a little bit of it. I think you can see in Heart of Trouble though how good Sleet Storm can be if the map is designed around it. For example, Sleet Storm is a superb card if you go north first in Heart of Trouble, because you can basically CC every air unit with it. That's how I did my no ranged unit run. Was with Sleet Storm. So I think Sleet Storm does more have a place now, but yeah, what cards and faction plan to rework? Well, we've had plans for Twilight for like a year and a half, right? So Twilight is getting a rework. That's kind of on the top of our docket. And I think right now most factions are in a decent place. And so we started with Frost. Obviously, we had a really good Frost rework, but I think incomplete still. Then we reworked Fire. That's one reason we started with Fire Season, because we thought Fire is in a really good place. And I think people who've now played Fire can agree it is in a pretty good place. Some cards, some factions, I think everyone kind of knows still need some little love. I think Lost Soul need a little love. I think Ami definitely needs love. talking about. I think Stonekin is in a decent place, but I think Stonekin could really use some love too, especially in tier 2. It's hard to find. It's hard to build a deck using Stonekin in tier 2 that has what's the way to describe this? It's not clunky. Like the only really anti-air unit you have is Stone Tempest. Stone Tempest is kind of clunky, so be the thing that we definitely some rework there. But I think what we're going to focus on coming up is most factions right now are playable, and I'm happy about that. I think most factions are playable right now. What I'd really like to do is I'd like to do a little more work on Frost Tier 1. I really like Frost Tier 1 to be viable. It is viable, but more viable for more people. It's a very high skill level right now you need for Frost Tier 1 and like high level random PvE. So I'd like to touch Frost Tier 1. I don't have any ideas for it. I'm struggling with it, but I really would like to expand Nature Tier 1 too at one point in time, because I feel like players should have something more than just Windweaver to use. I know everyone loves Shamans, I love Dryads, but I kind of feel like there's maybe space for another kind of option here. And especially because we moved Root Nexus to Tier 1, I wonder if there may be some kind of root network kind of option we could go forward with that doesn't have the same problems as Trigger. So that'd be kind of cool. I think that's a possibility. I would really like to help Bandits. I love Bandits. I think Bandits Tier 2 is great. I think Bandits Tier 4 is pretty great, but I think Bandits Tier 3 is pretty bad. Like, Corsair, Gunner, Bandit Lancer. It's hard to use these cards like as your main cards. Soul Hunter is decent, but usually people just use Magma Hurlers or Ash Bone Pyros. They don't use the Bandit cards. So I really think Bandits could use some love. What else is there out there with faction I may be missing here? I think Shadow is in a great place, but I also think we haven't added any new Shadow cards, right? So I think Shadow could use some help. Tier 2 PvE diversity would be a big faction. And I also think pure Shadow could really use a payoff card. Right now we just have Shadow Worm, which is fine, but I really would like something like a card people get excited about a lot, like Dreadnought. Like that's an awesome card. Ethereal, that's an awesome card. Forestel, these are awesome cards. So I think Shadow needs one of those in addition to Shadow Worm. So those are just some thought processes and kind of feelings. But I think Frost to Nature Tier 1, I think could use some beefing up still. I think Bandits Tier 3 could use some help. I think Twilight could use some help. That's our plan right now is Twilight. But then we'd really just kind of start filling in.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that the longest meme was that all the developers were playing Shadow, but we haven't released a single Shadow card if you don't count promo Snapjaws.
Well, we all are Shadow players. You're a Shadow player. I'm a Shadow player.
Sure.
Hannah was a Shadow player.
Yep. You already touched upon this a little bit in the question, but the next question is actually if there are plans to flesh out the hybrid factions a bit more to rely less on splash cards. You mentioned that often you just end up spamming Magma Hurlers or Ashbone Pyros as bandits. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something we gotta work on, right? I think Ami definitely needs new cards. I think our Twilight rework is going to help a lot with this for fleshing out Twilight. Twilight has a lot of good tools. They're just not balanced well right now. They're kind of in the same way that Frost was. Frost had a lot of good tools that weren't balanced well. Similar with Bandits, but I think, like I said, Bandits Tier 3 definitely needs some help. I think Twilight's Tier 2 needs some help, but we're also going to be changing Tree Fiend, right? Tree Fiend to a Tier 2 card, so I think that'll help Twilight's Tier 2 a lot. As a good option. So yeah, I think those are cool. Those are cool ideas, right? And so I think definitely Bandits need some help. Definitely Twilight, we're going to see some things. I'd like to flesh Ami out. Again, I also said it. I think Stonekin's Tier 2 could really use some help. I think the Stonekin, we've helped them a lot with the Deep Fang and the Rage Flame reworks. I think those were very successful reworks. And I also think Earth and Gift, awesome rework. But yeah, I definitely want to do that. Oh, did we just change questions?
Oh yeah, Built Alert, you're moving too fast through the questions. The next question was actually, it should be a short one, if we can expect more movement speed buffs to be added to the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
I think the answer is yes.
Okay, next question.
But you have to be. Here's the thing: we have to be careful about them. It's really hard to do movement speed buffs because they can't work on allies, and the reason they can't work on allies is because that'll affect things like Rogue and Kale in King of the Giants. And it's really hard to use them. You have to worry about how much they work on enemies that are not single targets, and they can work on things like Drorn on King of the Giants. And so using them on allies, you can mess up some of how the campaign maps work in a pretty substantial way, and we want to avoid that. So I'm definitely interested in movement speed buffs, but there's also an upper limit of how fast we can really go. Otherwise, I think we'll probably cause desync issues, similar to the firewyrmlings, sadly. So I definitely could see, but there kind of be, I think it'd be a fire thing, or maybe even a fire frost thing. I could see it being a fire frost thing. Talking about reworks actually is a great one. I mean, we really would like to rework Battleship and Construct a little bit, or maybe add a new card or something like that combos the two of them together with kind of in Frost, or more substantially connected to Frost, so they're not just reliant on either of these really bad ice shields or like Nether Warp. But definitely think you could see some movement speed buffs happening as relation to that. And one of the suggestions that we're still thinking about was reworking or adding to Architect's Call the ability to speed up. So that's definitely on our docket. We've been thinking about that. We're still trying to figure out how to do that well, either as a new card or as a rework. And so I definitely, we'll see more.
All right. Then someone asked if there is any possibility that we will ever add wheel stacking back into the game. Wheel stacking was Wheel of Gifts, and you could basically stack the buffs on top of each other, I believe, indefinitely or something. It was a bit
indefinitely. No, it's not happening. And so the reason it's not happening is this: Wheel of Gifts is a very passive way to play the game, and we want to encourage people to be actively playing the game. We want people to have a support role. We definitely think we could like figure out ways to help people feel like they're more supportive, but just have people play City Builder in the base and stack a bajillion wheels and then kind of break the game, but like themselves not do anything but city build. Like we just don't want to. This is not a play style that we want to like push players. We definitely don't want to buff it to the point in time people feel like they have to play like this. And so we feel like wheels are maybe not in the perfect spot right now. Maybe could use slight changes eventually, but we do not want to bring back 20 strength stacking buffs so that like your units are like one-shotting it.
Yeah, I see the concern in the chat who might have misunderstood the question.
We're not nerfing them.
We're not nerfing gifts. Gifts used to be very OP in the EA days, that you could indefinitely build them and stack the buffs on top of each other. And one of the questions was if we plan to reintroduce that, and the answer is no.
I mean, wheels did get a slight buff when we changed the healing stuff, because healing stacks now. So like the Wheel of Gifts healing part does stack more. It's just that the attack buff does.
Yeah, and I believe it also got cheaper, right? Wasn't it 200 power in the past?
No. So it loses 20. See, like you can tell you're not a wheels player, Majora.
Yeah.
It's 200 it loses 20 power cost at U3.
Yeah, fair enough. I was also like, I thought this thing had 3 upgrades, and then I didn't realize that it was added on the last update. Anyway, so there was a spoiled question because the stream was moving too fast, but basically the question was, can we share statistics about Rebirth Edition cards? Rebirth Edition are the cards that the Skylords Reborn team added to the game. What you see on screen here was from the feedback survey from January this year, but there the question was just, what's your favorite card? No love for Sleetstorm. But do we also have data on cards being the most or least played?
Yeah, so we don't have Fire Season information yet. Laudados was not able to get back to us in time. He's been pretty busy. So we don't have that, but we do have some earlier of the year information that we don't have on the stream, but I can say a few things. Well, regards Fire Season, we think the two most popular cards based on the data we do have were Strikers and Fire Force B. So the reason these are so popular is also mine costs an insane amount of money right now because of the Fire Season inflation. I'm sorry, I'm laughing about it because I don't. We're gonna be helping to fix that problem next season. But it is kind of funny. Like how much money does Spitfire cost right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
3% on revert striker nerf. No, we're not reverting the nerf. It was busted.
Yep.
It was a mistake because it was checking for bloodthirst numbers, not striker numbers, and so it's just like stacking like crazy. Yeah, 3K on the Spitfire. Yeah, we're trying to spawn this problem. We'll talk about that. But so yeah, the two big ones. The most popular Rebirth Edition card in the entire game is Bandit Minefield. Bandit Minefield has a 12% play rate in both random PvE and in community maps. So it's it's the most played card. One of the most played cards in the game, really. I mean, I think the most played card is like Giant Worm or like Surge of Light or Windweavers. But Bandit Minefield, huge. Another highly popular one is Bonsai Lord, which has that's one of our first cards. I think that was in our first pack when we added cards, right? Bonsai Lord. Hannah implemented Bonsai Lord in 1 hour before the patch came out.
As we so often do. Yeah, the first batch was Code of Protection, Bonsai Lord, Sniper, Minefield, and Paladins.
Yeah, and so Bonsai Lord has a 7% pick rate in random PvE, which is really high. That's a really high rate. What is that? 1 in 14 players use Bonsai Lord. That's specifically the purple version, I'm pretty sure, but the green one has a respectable play rate. So that's pretty good. Another highly popular card, I think, honestly, one of our best successes in the game, and a card which until this season, which I'm sure went down the season because of the fire stuff, but until this season really kind of almost increased in play rate every single season since it came out, was Evil Eye.
Yeah, it's fun.
So Evil Eye has like a 5 or 6% play rate. I don't have the latest number right here, but I think it had like a 5 or 6% play rate last thing I knew. And honestly, it's been used in almost every Twilight deck, such that basically the reason people play Twilight is in random PvE is to play Evil Eye. So that's a huge success. I love Evil Eye. I think everyone loves explosions. That's literally when we designed the card what I said. I said people love explosions. People will love this card. Yeah, so I'm happy about this. That started as a not popular card. I think it had like a 0.5 percentage point play rate, but it's really gotten popular and people really like it. I really like it. So I'm glad people have enjoyed that, and I hope people get to enjoy it even more once we rework the rest of Twilight so they can kind of use it as a whole faction. Another highly popular card is Soulstone. Soulstone had, I think, it had our highest on release play rate besides Bandit Mine was 5. I don't have the most recent numbers, but Soulstone was a highly popular card, and I think it increasingly grew in popularity as more people got access to it. I think Soulstone was just one of those cards that just really added something to Frost Tier 1 that the faction was missing. And so that was really good success. Some statistics. The worst. Oh, our worst. It was Twilight Slayers.
Oof.
I think it has a 0% play rate.
Oof. The artwork is so cool, though.
Yeah. So we're buffing them hopefully by next patch. We'll see if it happens. But we want to buff them with their transformation, and especially once we actually finally release Molt translation, the Twilight Slayer should see some play rate, I think. But they also, they need places to use them. So I think Heart of Trouble kind of gives them one place you can finally use them with the walls, and eventually defensive random PvP will help. The other card that was incredibly unpopular on release is the card that is my image here, Transcendence. I think we buffed Transcendence 3 times. Now it has a okay play rate. Yeah, so they have an okay play rate. So Transcendence, was tier 4, and we buffed it multiple times the numbers and moved it down to tier 3. Now it has a real place in the game with things like Death Ray and Ashbone Pyro kind of decks, and also works really well with Energy Core and Ami Skyelf, which I think. Oh, talking about success. Our Ami release, that was a success. People loved those cards. A lot of different factions I got to see, especially Sky Elf getting used in. I've been very happy about that. People like some people. I mean, energy. I think Energy Core could see a little bit. It's a little clunky, right? I think I'd like to improve it, but that's good. Other really popular cards.
It's so fun.
Yeah, I mean, other really popular cards are. Actually, wait. No, what Majora? What's your favorite? What's your favorite card?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, but I think you haven't lived until you have warped an energy core with an unholy hero into a camp. I really like energy core. I also really like Zimbabwe. He was a cool character. I'm glad we finally got to add him. He's a little bit OP, but yeah, it's a really cool card. I like it.
Yeah, I think Zimbabwe is one of those cards that we were trying to design for probably 2 or 3 years, and when I released it, well, I think everyone. If you've used the Fire Tornado, my goodness, with Unholy Hero, is that satisfying?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's a good one. But I think then there's some PvP ones. Is Burning Spears was our most popular PvP card. In fact, every basically PvP card we released has had a really, really high popularity in PvP. So those basically every single one has been a success. And then just want to mention kind of last little bit is we've had a lot of reworks that are highly popular. And so I think it's worth mentioning Plague. I don't think people even remember how bad Plague was. It was a single target spell, had a 0% play rate, really successful. Bloodthirst used to be a single target Ravage spell. Obviously, Bloodthirst is kind of the cornerstone. Fire, Dying Breed, that's a hugely popular card now too. Also, Earthen Gift, really popular card. Did a really good job for Stonekin. And then lastly, my favorite rework in the game, Stronghold. And I guess one more funny comment. When we released Tectonic Shift, we thought, oh my gosh, people are going to love Tectonic Shift in like random PvE or campaign. I think Tectonic Shift had like a 40% play rate in PvP when we released it, because everyone was just warping strongholds into each other's bases.
Yeah,
so that was a really... And people were even playing tier 4 to get access to Worldbreaker Gun or Volcano. They're not Volcano, Worldbreaker Gun. Because you can't obviously Volcano. It's a Worldbreaker Gun to warp in people's bases. So those were I think we've had a lot of successful reworks.
Yeah. And we might also be able to share some more statistics in the future. We didn't have everything present on short notice. And we also, of course, have the player feedback survey again. I think maybe end of the year or beginning of new year. So yeah, we will see if those numbers have changed by then.
Yep.
All right. Time for a lightning round. I will take some of the more uncategorized questions and try to answer them as quickly as possible. So, one question that comes up every so often is, will there be additional localizations to the game? Currently it's in English, German, French, and Russian. And people have come towards us like, hey, can you do it in Spanish, for example? Sometimes they even ask, can we do it ourselves and have you approve it? Short answer, no, we're not going to do that. It's a lot of work. One of our biggest delays is translations. And even if the community would help us with it, the moment they are like, we don't feel like it anymore, we have just created a massive workload for us. So, not going to happen. Sorry about that. Another question was, have we been able to further crack the original source code? Or are there still blind spots that limit us? No, we have not. Reverse engineering goes on a task by task basis. We do not have the source code, so basically there are still some stuff where we have some things where we have no idea what it is, why it is there. You find stuff like do not use or do not change, and we do not know why. One of the reasons that we were not able to fix the wormlings is probably the lack of the source code. So yeah, we do not have it. It limits us, but we have also made a lot of changes, like the Firefrost we mentioned earlier, that we're now able to start implementing. So still working on it. On that note, there was also the question if it will be possible to create entirely new 3D models, or if that's still technically not feasible. Also related to the source code, we are currently tied to reworking existing models and animations, most importantly. We are actually working on it, but it's a long process, and we're not sure how far along we are. We are now nearing the point where we are able to add static models. So, for example, a lamppost or something like that, which is already cool. We hope in the future that we can actually get new models into the game, so we have a bit more flexibility there as well. Someone asked if we have ever heard from the original developers of BattleForge, and if so, do any of them know or are aware of the game continuation? Not directly. There was one of the map designers, I believe, who left a comment on our latest video of the season, I believe. And we have seen an interview with, I'm not even sure who it was a gaming outlet, magazine or a website, who interviewed the old head of EA Phenomic. And I believe he mentioned that he's definitely aware of the project, and he thought it was cool because that way his son could actually play BattleForge, even though it was offline. So they are aware of us. Obviously, EA is aware of us, but we are not actively in touch with them. In the past, I believe one of our card implementers or developers asked a question to one of the old developers, but I believe they did get a response back, but it was so long ago that, yeah, not much help in that regard. But they're positive towards Skylords Reborn, so that's always cool. Will we ever add promo spells? No, we will not. Comes up quite often, especially after we added promo buildings. The reason we're not going to do this is that if someone plays a purple eruption and you don't know it, then you have no idea what you're looking at. It's also not as exciting as I think people think it is. So no, we're not going to spend resources on promo spells. Is it possible to optimize the deck search so that you can enter the card name and then all decks containing that card are listed? I asked around, and apparently this should be possible, but we would have to put it on the roadmap. So, for example, you can look up all the decks with 3DI in it or something. So, kind of cool suggestion. We'll put it forward. And the last lightning round question is, are there plans to polish and or fix up annoying parts of the existing game, like extended hitboxes or a unit being knocked back? Yes and no. The plans are there, but the lack of source code prevents us from fixing these kind of things where we are not even sure why they are happening. So where possible, we will definitely fix those weird interactions, but we're not always able to. Okay, that was the last of the lightning round, bringing us to the next subject, seasons. A lot of questions about seasons.
We'll be revealing some season information at the end of this.
We will also be revealing the next season, yes. The current season is still active. We're about to enter month 4 out of 4. There was a lot of questions, a lot of feedback, a lot of things people like, a lot of things people were less enthusiastic about, and one of the questions was, to what extent will PvP be incorporated into future seasons?
Yeah, so PvP is kind of in a bit of a hard place right now because everyone's not playing PvP, so they can play, get the seasonal content. So we definitely want to help out with it. And one of the things that we plan on doing is we're going to add PvP challenges to repeatables. And people might respond to this and say, oh, now I have to play PvP. And the answer is no. So I'm going to go over that more when we get to repeatables. But in the next season, repeatables will have capped amount point. And so the point here is that because we're capping the amount of points you can get from repeatables, we're adding a lot more repeatables. And this way, people don't have to grind. So we're going to substantially reduce the grind from repeatables next season. And people are going to be able to play the game more like they want to play. So I think there's 3 new PvP challenges. One of them's a leaderboard one. One of them's just play ranked matches. And one of them just spend some time playing PvP, whether that's ranked or sparring or battle. Our battle arena, which we just added some new, some nice new balance changes to. Thank you our map testing team for that, and Berg, who was a big part of that. So yeah, so you're gonna be able to play PvP now. You're gonna be rewarded for playing PvP with repeatable points, but you're not gonna be forced to play PvP. Yeah, it's gonna be part of it. We're not. That's what we think. That we are trying in the upcoming seasons to diversify what people can play. People can be involved in the season and not feel like they're forced to play certain content. So we'll talk about that a little more. So
Yeah, and with PvP, it's always tricky that if you don't include PvP, the PvP players feel excluded, but the people who don't play PvP really don't want to be playing PvP. So we always try to keep out in mind. All right.
Yeah.
Next question. Is the order of seasons already determined? Are they going to rotate between the 4 primary elements?
One second. Someone mentioned in the chat that they think there needs to be PvP mode where there's like a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes. That's called Battle Arena. You can play it right now, game, and you'll be rewarded for playing it starting next season. Okay, so this one, yeah, order seasons, rotate between the 4 primary elements, and the answer is yes and no. So we have a tentative idea for the order of seasons, a few out. We have a roadmap for the first 4, and maybe the 5th, depending upon how things go in the background. But we're not going to announce that now. We want to just announce each one about a month beforehand, I think is the intention that we're about to do right now. So do have an idea for the ordered seasons. Are we going to rotate between the 4 primary elements? The answer is no. We are not be doing that. We will actually be incorporating hybrid factions into the seasons, and we're excited about that. So we're trying to give people some more kind of gameplay diversity too. And I think Fire was fun, but not everyone wants to play Fire, so we kind of have to rotate and kind of let people play different factions. We also want to open it up to, maybe have multiple factions season. That I think that would be a good idea too.
Yeah, and as we mentioned before, it's our first season. We're still gathering feedback. So the more seasons we release, the more feedback we get, and we might still change stuff along the way. Okay, then we have another question which kind of makes sense. If there are only 3 months of content in a season, meaning we release challenges in month 1, 2, and 3, and then have a month where you can complete the challenges you have left, wouldn't it make more sense to only have 3-month seasons and then have a month break?
Yeah, so this is something we thought about, and we kind of went back and forth a bit inside the team discussing. And the reason we didn't do 3 months of season, 1 month of downtime, 3 months of downtime, is that we wanted to give an opportunity for people who might have started the season late to still get the content, or who maybe didn't have time early on. And so the reason that we have 3 months of content and not 4 months of content is because the 4th month is basically the downtime. And so you could get all of the seasons done and season 3, and you could just take the last month off. And that's kind of how we designed the downtime into the season itself, but we also think that if we do it this way, it lets someone who started late in the season still have the ability to catch up. So that's kind of the decision we made, and I think it makes sense. I think this way is, you can't ever get things perfect, right? Especially because we're going to be reducing grind from repeatables next season. I think people will really start recognizing the 4th month kind of as a downtime.
Yeah, I think that was also one of the concerns in the beginning of the season, is that people were starting to feel stressed, like, oh, I don't have enough points for the Sunderer, and they didn't have the overview yet. Like, yeah, but you will have a complete month to finish up everything you haven't done yet. The goal is not to have you play as much as you can, so we're always trying for that balance. And yeah, we could have like scrapped this month, but then you have a month of downtime doing nothing. So why not just, like, if you already did the challenges, you still have your month of downtime. But now you can actually finish them up, so
Yep.
Makes sense. Will we consider making the challenges unlock every 2 weeks instead of monthly?
So I would say the answer to this question is no. And the reason why is a lot of people, waited for month 2 to happen for the seasons. But there was only 4 challenges. right? So a lot of people were like, "Oh, only 4 challenges," and they just kind of just went away till month 3. And that's one of the things we're working on. Actually, next season the challenges will be spread out more between the 3 months. And like I also mentioned, it'll be since the repeatables will be less grinding for those people who just like to do a bunch of it all at once. You could just not participate month 1 and 2, show up month 3, and just grind a bunch for a month, get all the rewards, get all the challenges, and that'll be good. But I think the problem with every 2 weeks is I think it kind of has this almost makes people check back every 2 weeks. But if there's only 2 challenges, people just go, I'll just wait for more challenges to come out. And is it perfect the way it is now? I think the answer is no. But I think any decision you make has to have trade-offs. And from what we've seen, feedback-wise and player activity-wise, what we're going to try to do instead, we're going to spread the challenges we do have out over the 3 months more equally, while also capping the repeatable, so that if someone really just wanted to, they could just show up month 3 or month 4 and just grind it.
Right, that makes sense. The next question is actually a couple of questions combined, and mostly in regards to all the feedback we have gotten. How are we feeling about the current effort it takes to complete the repeatables, the difficulties, how many people have achieved the highest level of rewards? One of the things I've seen mentioned most is that people are really worried about not being able to get the Sunderer, while others are like, yeah, but the Sunderer should be a high-end reward. How do we feel about seasons in general in that regard?
Yeah, it's a good question, right? And I think I've talked a bit about repeatables, right? I think some of the repeatables, we were a bit optimistic. I think we released at 8 million spell damage at the beginning, and we reduced it to 4 million. 4 million is already kind of a bit too much. So we learned our lesson on that one, I'll just say. And we learned our lesson, and the goal now is for the next season, we're going to encourage more diversity of play, but if someone wants to grind one thing over and over again, they still can. And I think right now the repeatables have a little bit too much effort because too many points are in the repeatables. That's the problem with the repeatables. There's also too many points in the daily quest in the repeatables. And we're kind of removing a lot of the points from the daily quest. Because some people who started late now, they just can't catch up because they missed 80 days of month of the day points. So we don't like that. We're still having map of the day. We're still having map of the day points, but you'll be able to get points from other places. So I feel like right now, I'm unhappy. I think it takes too much. I think it's too based on playing daily, and I don't like that. And then I think in response to the player feedback we've got, we definitely want to make it so if a person could play maybe 4 hours once a week, 2 times, they don't have to log in every single day. They can still get the repeatable practice. And the idea then would be the player can still catch up, right? The player can catch up to the points that they need because of the capping. I think people next season will be pleasantly surprised how much more possible getting repeatable points are compared to this season. A lot less grind, a lot more options, a lot more possibilities. And so that's, I think I'm unhappy. We are unhappy as a team right now, but I think we're fixing it next. And it will continue to make choices. Second question: the difficulty of some of the harder seasonal challenges. So this is a good point, right? And I think me and you talked about this. And we ended up talking about this a good amount. Is we have a lot of completionists inside of our player base that we kind of didn't realize.
Sure. Yeah.
So some people want to have completionist points and some people want to have hard challenges. So it's hard to balance between those two because we want to reward some of our long-time hard, really good like speedrunner, veteran players having these hard challenges that really kind of like have them, you got to really play the game to be good at. But we also want people to get the rewards, right? So we are strongly rebalancing points next season so that if you get all the repeatables, like I said, are much easier, and you do every challenge on advanced and 1 challenge on expert. So every challenge on advanced, 1 challenge on expert, you will get the promo. That's how we're balancing it out. But we're adding more points beyond 900 now. So we're expanding the points out to 1100 actually, but they're all going to be just cosmetics. So things like the titles, things like the relics, things like that going on. And so the idea here would be that players who really want the Sunder, who put in a lot of effort, the promo, right? The Sunder right now, put a lot of effort in and just do every single challenge on advanced and one on expert and just play the game enough that they get the repeatable points, will get the promo. We think that's a fair way, because the idea for us is this. If a player puts the effort in, we want them to get the promo. Like, if you really try to put the effort in, you get the promo. And no, the seasons are rotating. Okay, yeah, right. Sorry, I see a question. So you can get the promo by putting effort in, right? If you're playing consistently, like every week or a lot of times in a given like month or over the weeks, you should be able to get it. But if you don't put the effort in, you should be able to get the new cards. So the idea is, if you just want to put a few hours into the season, you can get the 3 new cards that come with the new season. So that's our balancing. So you get the 3 new cards just by kind of playing casually and doing a few of the challenges, and next season, really, you should be able to get the new cards just from doing repeatables. Not even if you don't like the factions we choose. But if you want the promo, you have to do every challenge on advanced. And that includes some of the ones on Nightmare. But we tried to balance it so that doing the Nightmare challenge on quote-unquote advanced is possible. And if not, then you have to do maybe 3 of the challenges on expert of the one-time challenges, and you should be okay. And we tried to make it so that even some of the expert one-time challenges are nothing crazy, right? That some of them could be maps you can be carried through, or things that you could learn that are not too hard. So we're trying to hit a good balance here between players who maybe aren't as high skill level, but who play a lot. They can still get the rewards that they want. They can still get the promo, which is the primary reward. But that players who really want a challenge, they'll have like these cosmetic stretch goals, and they can fight each other on the leaderboard. And so, we're trying to balance that pretty well. And so we definitely are going to continue having Nightmare challenges, and we try to have the Nightmare challenges be 1-player and 2-player, because it's hard to find 4-player lobbies for Nightmare. We want people also have the option. So I think that question kind of goes along with the how many people achieve the highest level rewards. Well, if you go in game, you can see that right now. And I don't know what it's at right now. Is it like 80? 200? I think next season it'll be the amount of people who get promo will be higher, but the amount of people who get to the very top will be lower.
Yeah, and as you mentioned at the beginning, like, we severely underestimated how many completionists we have in the community, which kind of conflict with, I saw it appear in the chat just now, can you get rewards for the top 5? That's the issue. Like, there's a certain kind of players who want very exclusive rewards, and there are players who like, I really love this game, I really want to spend a lot of time on it, but I don't feel like grinding or doing everything on expert. And it's impossible to make both of those happy. We will piss one of them off.
Yep.
And I think for this season, we also underestimated, like, we kind of had the idea, like, okay, you come in at standard, then you go advanced, and then you go expert. But there are also people who like stick around on advanced, not because they're new, but that's just the way they enjoy to play the game. Yeah. And our goal was never to lock the promo Sunderer only for the most diehard of players. It was just like, we want this to be a reward that incentivize you interacting with the season. And I think the more seasons we release, the better we get at finding that perfect spot of feeling something to play towards, but not something that's always out of reach.
Yep. And also, the top 5 reward, the reward for the top 5 players is the leaderboard. Because the leaderboard will stick around, so in the future they can say, hey, look, I was number 2 in season 1.
Yeah, you will always have the brag rights, yeah. Right. So, is there going to be a Force of Nature type challenge in the future where players need to complete the campaign with a season faction? Force of Nature Maybe. Was the achievement for the promo mana wing.
I would say never count it out. Maybe, but also maybe not. We'll see. I mean, if we want to ask the players they can't play 20 different maps, I mean, we're going to reward them accordingly, right? Like, it's going to have to be like a 50, 60 point challenge. But we'll see, right? We'll see. We're going to keep trying to experiment. We have definitely some challenges in the season that are kind of going to be recurring challenges every season with different factions. But then, we do want to have some of these unique things. So, I think definitely a maybe. I think maybe whenever we do nature season, probably not. because we don't want to have the redo. But maybe a Shadow season, maybe a Lost Soul season. That'd be kind of cool with them. Maybe play all the maps. So I could definitely see it happen.
Right. Are we going to prioritize general challenges, for example, complete 10 maps with X restriction, or specific challenges, complete X specific maps with Y specific restriction going forward?
Yeah, so I think the answer is both. We're gonna do both because some players really like the kind of silly deck building challenges. What was it like? Only use like beast and human cards for fire. Is that what we did?
Yeah, and
And
I tried to combine it with like 2 others.
you tried to do the infected map, right?
Yeah.
While doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So priest primordial. Yeah. So that I really liked that, right? So and then we had the beast primordial artifact one. So I like those challenges. I think it's interesting to kind of have people play different maps. Maybe we might do some specific maps you have to be with them because I know some people were complaining that they can just do like encounters with Twilight over and over and over again. I mean, I get it, but also like in some sense, here's the thing: like if you want to challenge yourself, challenge. I mean, we can't do anything. We can't do everything. So you got to challenge. Sometimes you got to just introduce some challenge for yourself. But I think I think the No Twilight Edition one, I really liked that. I think that was a very unique deck building challenge, and so I like encouraging our players to really get involved with the deck building in BattleForge because the deck building is one of the most interesting parts of our game, and I think the seasonal challenges and the deck building, that's kind of fun. So, but I also like the kind of wacky, single map ones. So we're trying to do both, right? We're trying to kind of get people interested in both, not do too much of one and too much.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think it was also mentioned in the past by players that not everyone enjoyed like that there's a full fire season, but people also mentioned like I never played fire and now I suddenly love the faction a lot because we kind of nudged them into, well, not really, so we'll nudge play fire, damn it. But yeah, there's a lot of content in BattleForge, and I think people are a bit too quick to just stick to the mine, stick to the Shadow Phoenix. Deck building is a lot of fun, and I hope that we can encourage players to explore it a little bit more. One of the concerns of the season was the difficulty in telling if the deck is fitting the challenge. So the question was, are there plans to make it easier to see if player decks fit challenge requirements?
Yes, so we're working on this right now. We don't know what's going to be out for this season, but we're trying to add a chat command. So you can just type in the chat, say like, it'd be like /season. You can type in challenge 3.5, and it'll tell you if all of the people in your party, if their decks fit the challenge or not. So that's one option we're having. Another option we don't know if this will happen for this season, is we're trying naming your lobbies. So yeah, that's going to be
big request. Yeah.
Big request. It's going to be hard to do, but if when we get that done eventually, that'll be really beneficial. So someone can say, hey, this lobby is for challenge, 4.1, and they can say the restrictions right there in the lobby. So before a person even comes in, they know what the expectation.
Yeah, and even outside of seasons, there were a lot of requests like, okay, I want to play Guns of Liar, but I want to do it the intended way or something.
Yeah, it's another thing too, right? You'll say no speed run. Okay, this is a Guns of Liar no speed run, or this is Guns of Liar speed run. I think it would benefit the community a lot, right? If we could do that. And so yes, that's definitely something we're working on. One other feature that we're working on, I know I think Ult was working on this recently. I don't know if we're gonna get it done in time, but it'd be love, is that you're going to be able to press the challenge. There's going to be a button on the challenge that says no primordial and no beast. And it's going to open your inventory for you with the filters already on. So this way, when you're looking at a challenge, trying to figure, well, how do I search for this, right? How do I search for, no beasts or no artifacts or something like that? How do I search for no Twilight cards? A lot of people are very confused by that. When we add this button, it's going to open your inventory up for you already, such that you can already have the search setting set up. So that's going to be a huge feature, I think, for a lot of these players. And I'm really hoping that we get this done for the season. It might happen more mid-season. But we're really trying to take in the feedback that players are giving us to make things better. And so we hope we can get as many of these out for next season.
Yeah, and it will also prevent the whole feel bad moment of, oh, I did this very hard challenge, but I didn't get the point. Yeah, because you were using a neutral card and the challenge wasn't clear enough that
Yeah.
you were not allowed to use that neutral card.
Yeah, that's true too. And we're changing the way the descriptions are written in hopefully a way that's going to help players more. We're hoping, we never really know. We're going to keep trying to modify, but we're hoping that the new challenge kind of descriptions are going to help players be more clear what they want, what they need.
Yeah, and definitely keep giving us this kind of feedback. I know a lot of people, like, if you phrase it nicely, we always love the feedback. Some people feel bad, like, yeah, it's a volunteer project, I don't want to complain. But if you're like, hey, this was fun, but this was kind of, just tell us, and we try to incorporate it for the next season.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of next season, I'm not sure if the next slide immediately reveals a card, but we are ready to announce the next season, which will be not single faction, but actually Nature Twilight. So, as Windhunter already mentioned, we are gonna try to open it up a little bit. Players like the first season, but playing only fire got a bit tedious. So for the next season, we are focusing on a bit of a wider range of factions and card availabilities. And today we actually have some cards to show you as well. Let's see if the stream goes to the next slide as well.
Okay, yeah, so unit number 1, right? Fan favorite from Encounters of Twilight.
Hated and beloved Twilight Whisperer, yes. Card design is quite similar to the NPC you encounter on the Encounters with Twilight, actually. Its classic blind skill attack is present, and I believe Rejuvenate is similar to the Timeshifter Spirit Heal, right?
Yep, it's basically Timeshifter Spirit in Tier 2. So this is going to give people basically a Shaman card in Tier 2 that's, but also has a crowd control, has a blind effect.
Yeah. And he also has a very cool transformation ability, because if he transforms, then he creates a Mark of the Keeper's circle.
Yep.
So blocks ranged and magical attacks for a little bit.
But does not block card play for anyone worried about PvP. It does not block card play. This is definitely intended to be a more casual PvE card. So the blind move actually has a longer range. It's got 40 meters. So that way the Twilight Whisperer can stay in the back line, heal, but also have enough range to attack with them.
Yeah, and it definitely fills a gap in the faction. Twilight has a lot of cards, but it felt like there was not a lot of options in Tier 2 in range of like support card outside of spells. And this will definitely help out there.
Yep.
All right.
This is my favorite unit from PvE, so I'm really excited.
Oh, really? Nice. There will also be more information about the card in the community update, by the way.
Yep.
So, moving on to the next card, which is very similar to another popular card.
Ooh. By popular demand, I would say this one.
Yeah, definitely. So Twilight Devastation is another summon building, kind of like the Bandit Hut. Maybe you can talk a bit more about this one.
Yeah, so people loved Bandit Hut. I mean, people just did. It was I think it was a huge success, really, and I was really excited how much people loved Bandit Hut. So we're just gonna go the same thing with Twilight, and we think both factions kind of fit having spawn things, and this is your own thing. So you get to spawn 2 classic Twilight enemies. You're gonna spawn the Devastator, which is the crab unit that does extra damage to buildings. And in fact, it's going to have the Sunderer ability on it, but a higher level, so you can tear down those buildings. There's also the Dancers. The Dancers have 40 meters, just so you know, not 50 meters. We had a little slight nerf on the NPC variety, but you get 2 Dancers when you spawn that. You get 1 Devastator. So very similar to the Bandit Hut, but we tried to make the units very different. The Bandit Hut has the kind of Strikers, the Bandit Strikers, and the Sky Rakes. So very different units we're going for. And additionally, we think this was a great way to add this. We're adding the Twilight Infection ability from Skycatcher onto the building, so when you get tier 3, you can transform all of your tier 1 and tier 2 units into Twilight units.
Yeah, definitely a cool build around card for the faction. Yeah, and for those who are not aware with the names, the Devastator is indeed the crab, and the Dancer is basically the Fire Dancer model.
Yep.
And also for this one, more information in the community update as well.
Yep.
But we mentioned this was a nature Twilight season, so we also have a nature card for you. I want to preface that by saying the art is still being worked on. We literally got this art today, and it's still a work in progress. We're hard at work on finalizing the season. So here we have our first new nature tower, which is a really interesting design. It's not a root network card, but it's actually a tower that changes its attack type based on which unit you put inside of it. You have 6 options, I believe.
6, but there's only 3 effects because it was too crazy.
Yes. So basically, I'm going to try this from the top of my head. If you put Sunstrider in it or White Rangers, I believe the range is increased. Yes.
Yep, the range goes to 50 meters if you put a Sunstrider or a White Ranger inside of it.
Yes, and then if you put a Windweaver or a Twilight Slayer into it, you get multi-shot. So it
already has multi-shot, so that 850 might not seem like a lot. It already has 2 shots, but if you put a Windweaver or Twilight Slayer, then it gets 3 shots.
Pretty impressive. And then the last one was the Spirit Hunter or the Dark Elf Assassins, and I believe it then gets a poison attack.
Yep, then gets poison attack. So most players, when they see this card, will think it's a new model. That's the cool thing too. So we learned that we can combine different models together when we were designing this card. So that's a really kind of cool situation. Someone's laughing if I can put someone's joking if we put a Sky Elf in it. No, it's only ground elf. It literally will say ground S-sized elf unit. So the building itself is a non-root network building. One of the problems nature had was its tier 2 defenses. The only thing it had was really, it was hard to put a nature defense behind a wall because the only thing you could really use was living towers. We had to put a bunch of living towers next to each other, so that was hard to make the root network. And you can't use spike root through walls. So we wanted to have a normal tower for nature that also wasn't root network. And then we when we were thinking about it, we thought, hey, what if you could take one of your leftover Windweavers and put it inside the building? And then from there, we kind of just expanded it. So actually, it's not just your elf unit you can put in, it's an allied elf. So if your ally is a fire player and he has a bunch of leftover Sunstriders, you can put his Sunstriders from tier 1 into the building. I mean, the units count as dying, so you're not holding power still for them. It's kind of like the Bandit Sorceress goes into the building, and the power comes back to you. So, but then it found that's a reason you could maybe use Spirit Hunters in PvE because they give it a very strong. I think the poison effect's the strongest by design, but then also if you go Shadow Nature, you can put a Dark Elf in it, or if you go Fire Nature, you can put the Sunstrider in it for the extra range. And it'd be kind of cool, if you have a teammate and you kind of team up with them. If you had the Sunstrider, so you can have one with extra range, so it can attack, those things like dancers attacking you, and have the other ones either be the poison or the multi-shot. So I think this card is really cool. Everyone who's seen it so far has been really excited, and I hope that players will be as excited when we finally get to release it.
Absolutely, and the model was looking really cool in development as well. So I think it will be a popular card. So those 3 will be the new cards. We also have a promo card, but for that we will wait 1 more month. We're not going to show that one today. The only hint I can give is that it was the most requested promo in the survey, and we did not reveal which one that was. So if you voted for something and it somehow did not end up being in the results, you might have a hint of what's coming.
Yep. I think the most beautiful card we'll ever release is the upcoming promo. I mean, the artwork really and the 3D model, like, wow, our artist did absolutely amazing. Probably the most beautiful card we'll ever release is this promo.
Yeah. Not to hype it up too much, but we are hyping it up. It's pretty cool. All right. There will also be some cosmetics again. We don't have a lot to show you at this point, but we do have one of the new banners and borders for you today. There it is. So just like we did for the fire season and earlier achievements and cosmetics, this will be one of the things that will be on the reward track. You can, of course, customize it yourself, put another title on it, put another avatar, etc.
Yeah, I feel like Titan just did a superb job here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Titan's our artist, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this is, I think we kind of went for a temple feel, right? For this, kind of feels like it's an ancient temple that the player's kind of entering, kind of castle in the sky or like sunken temple.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and we also have a couple of titles again. We have a new Forge, this time a Twilight one, I believe.
Yep, Twilight Forge.
Twilight Forge, similar like you got unlock the Bandit Forge this season. And we are also planning to spread out some other rewards among the track this time. Maybe you can dive a bit into that.
Oh yeah, so obviously a big problem from this season was that players didn't have fire cards. And so we obviously put boosters in, right? But boosters kind of wasn't enough. So we're actually expanding the early game reward track. So next season, for the first, at the beginning part, you will receive rewards every 16 points, not every 25. And later you will receive rewards every 20 points, and then eventually it'll go to 30 points at the very, very end, once you get past 700. But so there's going to be more rewards more quickly next season, and those rewards are going to be cards. We're just going to give you what we think are essential cards, not non-essential cards, but things like Snaring Roots or Shaman, or some of the rare cards. I don't think we have any ultra rares that we're giving out, but cards that we kind of view are essential parts of, say, like Twilight, like Abomination, or like Evil Eye. We're kind of Mark of the Keeper, maybe. Actually, we might be giving Mark of the Keeper out. Things also that you could just have one copy of, and having one copy of it would be good. We're putting that into the reward track, and the idea here is if you want to do the harder challenges, you're gonna have to buy some cards, right? But if you're just trying to do the advanced challenges and you don't have any nature cards, I mean, that's a problem with nature, right? I feel like everyone has nature cards, but Twilight cards, I think, will be a bit of a challenge here. We're experimenting with giving these cards out to kind of help with the market, because we want the market to still be able to trade things. So, probably some of the ultra rares will still be crazy expensive. But actually, we are giving out ultra. We're giving out Promise of Life. I think. But
Yeah.
we're trying to give these cards out to help players who wouldn't have any of that faction. So I think that would have helped a lot for this last season, because a lot of players just didn't have any of the fire cards. So this is a way where we think we can balance between the market's still there, the market can still be interacted with, you're still going to need it for expert cards, but for players who just want to advance things, who just don't have it at all, who are trying to build a collection at the beginning of the season, they're going to be able to get these cards pretty quickly. And so then they can have that.
Yeah, sounds good. It was a bit of a downer at the beginning of the season that everyone was like, I want to play, but I can't buy anything. Especially new players, of course. Can you maybe also explain a little bit more? We already talked about the current season and the challenges going forward, but what kind of challenges players can expect on the season this time?
Oh, challenges. Well,
Yes.
I mean, you're going to have some challenges that are only Twilight cards. You're going to have some challenges that are only nature cards. You're going to have some challenges that are both. We have a few really fun ones, I think, for some of our more crazy players. I think one of the challenges is that you can only use tier 1 cards to beat a map on expert. So this is a nightmare challenge for our wacky speedrunners out there trying to figure out how to beat maps with tier 1 cards. One of my favorites is we have a challenge you can only use small units. So that's going to be fun to see how people figure out how to beat some of these maps with small units. I'm looking forward to that. I think that actually has specific maps you have to beat, but I don't remember exactly. So those are some fun ones. Yeah, I mean, we have a few ones like, no beast or forest kin units. That's going to be great. We tried to let me just pull my up actually instead of trying to remember 40 challenges off the top of my head. We're keeping some of the old challenges around, like the speed challenges, so you're still going to have the fastest 100 times for the nightmare challenges for random PvE, and then for a different map. You're also going to have the do random PvE in under a certain amount of time, but we're changing what that looks like. We're making it easier for the average player to get there. So instead of having 3 minutes as the lower time, it's going to be 4 minutes, and we're making it connected to infected maps and to map of the month. And the idea by doing this is you don't have to keep refreshing constantly, but it's more easy. We also have people testing if it's even possible 4 minutes beforehand this time. But we're condensing the point totals. So let's say you get under 5 minutes, you're going to get almost all the points. Like the last few categories are no longer going to be worth like +5, +10, +15. They're going to be worth like +2 or +3. So that way, a player can do, if a player gets the place that we think they should be getting, they're getting over 90% of the points. So they're getting 35 of the points, they're getting 30, 35, 36 of the points, something like that. But they don't have to, be getting down to these crazy times or getting these other kinds. So we're trying to balance the two of that by kind of making the top rewards have less point rewards. So then they're really just there for people who want to compete on the league. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think if they like the first season, I think you'll like the second season kind of even better. We are using a lot of community maps again, but different community maps. Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited.
Sounds good. Okay. Before we dive into the general Q&A, one of the questions that would fit to this is, someone asked, are there enough cards to make a Twilight only deck? Because we mentioned that there will be challenges for nature and Twilight. How would it look like if you have a Twilight challenge? Can you start with like fire or nature in tier 1? How did we do that?
Yeah, so depending on the challenge. So some challenges you have to start with nature tier 1, and some challenges you could start with either fire or nature tier 1 for the Twilight. And then after that, only use Twilight. Kind of like the achievement we released for Heart of Trouble. They use only the Bandit cards. So some of them, it's only nature tier 1. Some of them you can use either fire or nature. Some of them you could technically do shadow tier 1 and then orb swap. I don't know why you would do that, but we have it written so that you kind of have more ability to
Nice.
do things that way.
All right. So that's it from all the pre-submitted questions. During this stream, we also got a lot of live questions, so we will go over them now. We will see how long we will keep this going. As long as there are still questions we feel are interesting to answer, we will keep it going, but we're already like at 1 hour and almost 50 minutes, so our 1 hour estimate is definitely not happening. All right, I will just pick a couple of random ones in no specific order. Since seasons won't rotate, this means things like Promo Sunderer and the title God of Fire, Forge, etc. will not be available after the season anymore. No, that's not true, actually. This question was from Prototype. Those are available by purchase with relics, but the relic shop will only include them after the season has ended. I'm not sure if we already communicated how much people will be paying for Promo Sunderer. Do you know that from the top of your head?
Yeah, so it's 150. So 150 sounds like a lot, but also the promo is supposed to be the top reward. And also next season, we're adding about 10 or 15 or 20 more relics that you can earn. So the idea is that, it could cost a lot. Here's the thing, I just want to warn everyone, and I want to ask for some grace. When we release the relic cost for the cosmetics, we might adjust them. And if we do adjust them, we hope we can kind of pay people back if we make them. We'll try our best. But we're still kind of working through what we want the cost to look like, because we want to encourage people to actually engage with the season. So but if you want the top rewards like the Forge or the promo, you're gonna have to pay a lot. Because otherwise it would not really be fair if you could just do nothing and just have like 50 relics, and you can just buy the promo anyway. So the promo is going to be expensive. I think it's like 100 or 150. But yeah, so that's what's going there. Also, we're adding a few other rewards to the relic shop. So we'll be adding some more NPCs and some more NPC buildings and some more NPC bosses, and we're also going to be adding a new defense forge, which maybe we'll come out with next season, which is a new forge style specifically designed for people who want to set up defense. But we're still working on the prices because we want to make it hard but fair.
Yeah, that makes sense. And for those who are not aware, relics are not just earnable in this season. The next season will also reward relics that you can then use for rewards from either that season or previous season. So the more you play, you will always be able to catch back up. So if you start in season 3, you can still earn relics to purchase stuff from season 1.
Yep, and you can also earn relics from infected. And
yeah,
actually, I think it's a good thing too. Is we plan on rebalancing and expanding infected maps, but not for this season. We have too much going on. So maybe season 3, you'll see a kind of expanded infected maps.
Right. Here's a fun question for you. Will we make gold tradable?
No. Gold was too inflationary before I joined the team, and we just can't fix it. It's actually one reason we added relics as a new currency, because we just cannot fix gold inflation. It's too far.
All right. Then a similar question would be, also a topic you answered before, will we change enlightenment?
No. So as we mentioned in our patch, we will not change enlightenment. That's a kind of off-limits card from this point forward. In fact, we have promised that from this point forward, we will not be doing large-scale kind of like super nerfs or like rework nerfs of cards like we kind of did with Ami Monument. We think that point in time in the game is past. We still might be doing some minor nerfs, like kind of like when we nerfed like 80 health from Magma Hurler or kind of that kind of stuff. But we plan on any card that's kind of been released, not, an exception to this might be we release a card and then we rework the card that we release. None of the cards we released so far can I think that it could be possible in the future or something like that happened. But any card that's currently in the game, I would say we're not going to do this whole rework to nerf it. We'll rework it to buff it, but we're not going to rework it to nerf it.
All right, that makes sense. Let's see. There's also a question that comes up quite often. Fire Season kind of showed the problem of an open market. Are there plans to change something about the market?
So I think there's been a lot of suggestions over the years about kind of putting like dev cards to the market, and, putting price caps and stuff like that. And we think it's against the spirit of the market to kind of cap things off in that way. One thing that we do plan on changing, I'm hoping that we can get it done in the next couple of months, is that we're adding it. So I think right now you can have 100 auctions, right? You can have 100 auctions, and we are planning on keeping the 100 auctions for rare and ultra rare, but add a new 200 or something like that for common cards. So that way people can put common and uncommon cards into the market more easily without taking up their other slots. And we can look in maybe ways to make it easier to list cards on the market. Like I think it would be interesting if you could just say, like there was again, this is kind of far future. We're not working on this yet, but I think this would be interesting to put like a command that say, hey, put all of my common cards on the market for the median price on SMJ Journal. So SMJ, if you don't know what SMJ is, it's smj.cards. It's a great site to check what the normal prices are for cards. You can also use it for a deck build. You can also use it for a card creation thing. It's one of our tools. Maybe we can put it in chat. Yeah, we go right there, smj.cards. Great site. And the other thing is, reforging actually has a soft price cap. So because of reforging, there's a threshold, an upper and a lower threshold for every rarity. And people are like, "Oh, what about Spitfire?" Well, okay, actually, Spitfire is still within the range, to be honest. Maybe I know, maybe it makes some people kind of a little unhappy, but it is kind of within the range. But if you check SMJ, you can actually see if a card is worth reforging, or if a card is worth like buying up from the market and reforging, because you'll make a profit. So reforging is kind of the balance for the market in general. We want to make it, and as I also said, we want to make it so that people can put more common and uncommon cards on the market, so they can deal with card inflation there where people are just buying them up. And we also want to make it easier maybe to put your common, uncommon, maybe even your rare cards onto the market so you can trade. But we don't want to price cap specifically, because we want to allow the market to be a real thing still. And the thing is, there's a good portion of the player base who just really likes playing the market, and we don't want to take that away from them.
Yeah, for some it's part of the game, so it's always tricky to balance that out. Right.
Yeah, and when someone says, why couldn't someone just put 10,000 Spitfires onto the market? Well, because if you start reforging fire cards, you're going to make a ridiculous sum of money. If I reforged a bunch of, fire cards that are rare, I have a really high chance of getting ultra rare fire cards. There's not that many of them. And every Spitfire would then be worth a lot of money. So reforging is how you kind of that. But it has to make sure people are. Sorry.
Yep. All right. One question from earlier in the stream was, are the PvP decks, the free PvP decks, still viable? I believe all of them are, and there was one that Radical wanted to make some changes to. I'm not sure which one it was.
I think it's Ami, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. I think he wants to change the Ami one.
Yeah. But in general, yeah, they're still viable. Most of our new cards have also been focused on PvE. We had a quite heavy focus on PvP in the past as well, but it's in a quite good spot at the moment. So yeah, all those decks should still be viable. And you are still obviously able to edit them as well if you want to add like a pet card or something like that. This is a question for you, I think. Can we have like a catch-up mechanic for the map of the day, points, week, month?
Yeah, so as we already mentioned, repeatables will be changing next month, so you won't be forced to play every day to get all the repeatable points. Yeah, so you're not gonna be able to. You won't. It's not gonna be like this season, right, where you have to play map of the day to get the repeatable points. Next season, that's not going to be true, and so you will be able to catch up by doing the other repeatables and by getting them done. We worked really hard on trying to fix that problem, because it's a really substantial problem. We had a few players come in month 2, month 3, and they just felt locked out of the promo Sundra because they couldn't do the map of the day, they couldn't do the map of the weeks that they'd missed. So yeah, we've had a really big rebalance of repeatables, and that shouldn't be a problem.
All right. Someone was asking if we can add borderless full screen to the game. I believe we're not able to do this officially, right? There are
we just can't. We just don't have access to stuff to do it. There are a few programs you can use though that do it.
Yeah, I believe there are some hacky ways that do it, but I believe lack of source code is part of the reason that we're not able to give this feature ourselves. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Is there a specific faction we would like players to explore or play? I guess part of the way is seasons, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of what seasons are. That's encouraging people to play those and then the challenges are encouraging them how to modify between.
Makes sense. Any chance EA may give us the source code? I mean, never say never. It happened in Command & Conquer, like not even a year ago, out of the blue. But I highly doubt it.
I don't know if they have it anymore.
Yeah, even that.
Like, Phenomic's dead, you know what I mean? I don't even know if they have it anymore.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
Yeah. Probably not.
I'm just thankful we can have the game. I'm just thankful for EA that EA lets us have the game, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we should be thankful for that.
Yeah, we've mentioned it in Discord before. Like, EA gets a lot of flack for like shutting down BattleForge, and it's kind of understandable that people are upset about that. But the fact that we're like nearing our 5-year anniversary, and they're not hassling us about it. I mean, obviously we don't make any money of it, but still, they didn't have to do this. They might as well have just said, yeah, this is annoying, just shut down. And yeah, so yeah, praise for EA in that regard. Halloween asked if you like the deck he made on the forum, the hero deck with Zimbabwe. I believe that was in response to.
I do like the deck. I like the fact that hero decks have become a thing.
Yeah.
I like that you can use, you know, the Raven deck that we designed. You can use Jorn. You can use Zimbabwe, and you know, you have the legendary decks that are cool, and you kind of have this like single card thing. I would think it'd be interesting if we could pull off another hero style thing in tier 3, but I kind of feel like we might destroy PvP with that. So maybe it won't happen. But I'm happy with Zimbabwe. I think the hero deck that he posted on the forum is pretty cool. And I'm glad that that's an option. I like when we release a card and it makes a new deck archetype possible.
Yeah, and I like in general if players like share their decks on the forum. A lot of players in Discord, especially newer ones, come in and like, hey, does anyone have a cool deck for me to play? And especially the hero deck was a lot of fun. Looked really unique.
Yeah. Also, someone just mentioned in the chat, I want to respond to more challenges with neutral cards. We tried to add more neutral challenges next season. Maybe it's not enough yet. It's a hard balance to hit between allowing neutral cards and also encouraging people to play the faction cards. You know, I liked the silly kind of legendary challenge that we did, but we'll do some more of these going forward.
Yeah, makes sense. One question, maybe you know the answer to this. Will you fix the attack speed of certain animation? For example, Juggernaut has multiple animations and one of them is a slow attack, making it a bit of RNG. I believe every unit in the game has RNG in regards to its attack animation, right?
So actually, yeah, the RNG, the attack speed doesn't matter. So the way BattleForge works is a melee unit deals damage based on how long the attack animation. So the longer attack animation does more damage than the shorter attack animation on Juggernaut. The way a melee unit works in BattleForge is that the damage the damage value on the card in the bottom left, that's over a 20-second period, it's an estimate. But it's the same thing with, say, Material, right? Material has that like air attack that it does, and because of the attack speed, it does a certain amount of damage. We've actually balanced his thresholds around that. We actually balance certain cards around their slower animation times and their fighting. So we're not going to be, I wouldn't say we'll be fixing these, but there's not actually a problem because it has a slower, because it does more damage with the slower animation than it does with the faster. So it balances out.
All right, makes sense. Quite early in the stream, someone asked this. Can you give us a rough estimation of how many monthly active player the game has? Well, yes, actually, we have like stats for that.
4,000? 3,600 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Latest stats of like today said unique logins last month was 3,547.
Yeah, 3,500. Yeah, so 3,500.
We're outperforming Stormgate.
I think our daily's about anywhere from like 720 to about 1,200, depending on the time of the week and if an update happened.
Yeah, we definitely saw a lot of uptick with the start of the season. But as you mentioned, the player base has been quite stable for the last 4 years.
Yeah, we're thankful for the players, right?
Yeah, definitely. And seasons seem to be able to keep them engaged a bit longer. We'll have to see if the next season will do the same as well. But so far, yeah, BattleForge always had this doom spiral of people saying the game is dying. But yeah, for Skylords Reborn, I mean, we have been going strong for like almost 5 years and it's not slowing down. So thanks a lot for sticking with us in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, people say we're not growing players. Well, the thing is, like, we can't advertise. We're not allowed to. So the fact that we have a stable player base, especially as an old game like we are, like we think that's good. You know what I mean? The fact that the player base has been that same 35 to 3,600 for the last 4 years, it's been that 700 to 1,200, you know, kind of a week. I mean, a day, like the last, 4 or 5 years, we're happy. We're happy about that. I mean, we'd love if more people could play. We'd love if an influencer randomly decided to play the game. That would be awesome. But like, we can't decide that, so we're just happy the fact that we've had a completely stable player base.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that if people here they're the same for 4 years, it's not that the same people are here. We still have a lot of new people coming in. It's
Yeah.
just that every time someone quits, someone new apparently finds us again. So yeah, it's definitely not bad, and I prefer a stable player base than this random flux. When we went live at the very release at 2020, the streamer Hand of Blood picked us up, and there were like a massive influx of players. But the moment he dropped the game, all those players left again, and
Yeah.
the players who are currently playing it love the game. And yeah, it's a really niche game. I mean, it's an old game. It's quite a chore to install it with all the false antivirus warnings and stuff like that. It's a really unique game. I mean, like, it's an RTS, but it's also a TCG. Like, what even is it? It's part of the charm, but it's also really hard to advertise. And we can't even advertise it because we're not allowed to use any money. So yeah,
People try to ask me, like, they ask me, like, what do you do in your free time? And I say, oh, I designed a video game. Fun. And they say, well, what is it? And I'm like sitting there like for 5 minutes trying to describe it. And it is fun. Like, it's an RTS, but it's a collectible card game. They're like, oh, is it like Hearthstone? I'm like, no.
Yeah, I always say it's like a
No.
love child between like Warcraft 3 and Magic or something. Magic.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the closest game is probably like Clash Royale.
Oof, yeah.
But that's a crappy mobile. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say crappy. I don't want to insult people. I used to play it for a few years, and I got very annoyed by the kind of like the design philosophy. But it's like that, but you control everything, and it's not on mobile. But even that's like not a good explanation because it has a very interesting deck building. It's got a very complicated power system. Yeah, it's just very unique.
Yeah, sure. Someone was asking how high the cost of the infrastructure is. I don't have the numbers. I just know that we had a Patreon in the past. People could donate money for server upkeep, and we had to close the Patreon because we were getting too much money for server upkeep, and we didn't feel right to collect more money if we can't spend it on anything else. So we have quite a lot of savings for server upkeep. So I'm not sure about the exact numbers, but there's no risk that like in 2 years we'll randomly have to shut down or anything. If that ever becomes an issue again, we can always open up the Patreon again. So
yeah, if we could use the money for other things, we collecting money, but we can't, so we don't want to be taking the player base's money. But I think we have several years at least worth of server upkeep costs. So
yeah, for sure, yeah. Let's see. Will there be a return of seasonal achievement like the Easter egg, Yorn, and Santa? I believe yes.
Those happen every year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They'll be happen. And Halloween too. We have the Halloween one for the Yorn.
Yeah. So everyone who is like looking at the promo Frostmage, I don't know why this card is so expensive because it will crash hard when Christmas comes around.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be like it's not like Santa though. You can get Santa every year.
Yeah,
it should just be you can get it once. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a little controversy with Jorn. We made a Jorn pretty quickly. It was a really hard model to change. I can understand. It was a hard card to kind of make in a month. That was my fault. But I think everyone I love Frost. That's one of my favorite.
Yeah, it's a really cool one. Someone said, let's see. I remember playing this game as a kid. Is there any chance to play it if I have impaired arms that make my micro really bad? So kind of like a lower APM maps and stuff. I don't believe there's like a specific game mode, but the fact that the game is fully co-op, there's quite a lot of maps I believe you can play by just, playing around. For example, my girlfriend is absolutely not into RTS, but she kind of likes BattleForge because she can just like in co-op take it a bit chill in standard or advanced. So definitely not PvP and stuff, but I think BattleForge is quite friendly for an RTS game in that regard.
Yeah, I think one other thing too is I had a question in the past. Someone said like a lot of the new maps have like a lot of time-based stuff. And so we're working on that too. We want to release a few new maps that you don't feel like you're as time pressured. Or if they do have a timer, it's kind of it's a longer timer kind of thing. Because I there's a nicety, right, in playing something like Towers of Twilight. and you just can play at your own pace. And we would like, it's hard, but we'd like to make a few new maps like that. They're kind of play at your own pace. So then if people aren't as intense, they just want to kind of chill that day. That's something.
Yeah, for sure. There was also another question about basically the market, if we can cap how many extra cards a player can own. It's basically already discussed with how we feel how much we should influence the free market. It comes up every so often. Even I brought it up recently. But I don't believe there are currently any plans to actively restrict how people can interact with the market outside of like granting players cards through the season track. But correct me if I'm wrong.
Cards to season track, I want to make it easier to trade. That's the two things. We think if we make it easier to trade, more people will trade, which will help with prices. Yeah. But we don't want to come in and put a bunch of price controls on. We know a lot of people enjoy playing the market. We'd like them to. So we're trying to figure out ways to help the players who need the cards, but also help the players who like trading. It's a hard balancing.
Yeah, for sure. Someone was asking if there's a promo code for Twilight Pack. No, there will be a code at the end of the stream for General Pack. I believe this community update releasing soon will have a Fire or General Boost pack. But for the community updates after, I believe we will start adding Twilight Packs to go with that season.
Yeah, so stick around. There will be a code.
And for some reason, in the last community update, we had code to celebrate that we were outlasting the original BattleForge. And that code was used a lot more than the code that is available every single community update. So apparently there are still people who don't know that there's a code at the end of every community update. All right, we're almost through the questions. Let's see. I like the cooking with my deck thing of the season, but Twilight decks will be hard to cook because there's not enough Twilight cards.
So I mean, there are one of the problem with Twilight cards is that they're not balanced well. So they will be, hopefully we get the balance changes done in time. So there's gonna be a rebalance on things like Death Glider, rebalance on things like Tree Fiend, rebalance on things like buffing up like Twilight Warfare. Let me just pull my list up. To be honest, these are all announced on the Balance Discord. If everyone doesn't know, we have a Balance Discord. You can put card ideas there, and you can talk about the balance changes that we're proposing. Oh, we're doing a full rework to Will Zapper. So Will Zapper will become a good tier 2 kind of CC tower. It's going to be really great. We're making some minor changes to Hatecaster, and we're also buffing up Twilight Pestilence, Twilight Creeper, and we're giving we're also doing some minor buffs to Twilight Curse. We're making more cards able to be transformed by Twilight Curse. So I think we're adding Lost Reaver, Bandit Sniper, Lost Spellbreaker, Twilight Whisperer. And there's only probably 4 or 5 challenges that require only Twilight cards. Most challenges are Nature and Twilight cards together, with maybe some other. And additionally, we have the 2 new Twilight cards coming out, which will both be very good additions: the Twilight Whisperer and the Twilight.
Right. There are, from what I can see, 2 questions left, and then we have been talking for almost 2.5 hours. So. Is there a chance or wish to get some big influencer like Heart of Blood at the start to promote the game? We discussed this a little bit earlier as well. Yes, we always hope so. So please spread the word. As we mentioned, we can't do paid marketing, but if, I don't know, a random influencer or a streamer like, Day9 or something picks it up, that will always be good for the game. And of course, you're always free to stream it yourself. Maybe people find it. Maybe they think, hey, I remember BattleForge. I'll go check it out. And then the last question I see here is the border reward for the top 100 at the end of the season. Is it attainable later somehow?
Yes, but it's expensive.
Do you know how?
It might be like 50 or 75 relics. Technically speaking, a person who didn't get in the top 100 might be able to get it after this next season, still get it. So I think it might be 50 or something like that. So it's expensive, but was still within it, because we still want it to remain a little bit exclusive, but obviously we want all season rewards to be later purchasable. And like I said previously, we're still trying to figure out how much relics things should cost. It's a new system for us, so things might be little things. There's actually one more question we skipped over that I wanted to go back to.
Oh, sure.
Is someone said something about clans and guilds.
Right.
That would be cool, but I think it's every time I've talked about it, it's more effort than we think it would be. To add to like something like the friend menu, add like a guild system. This person's asking relics per season. No, right now you can earn 104 per season. Next season you can earn 124, because you can earn 3 every week from the infected map if you do it on X. But the guilds, it would be cool to add a kind of guild clan system. It's obviously been a big thing people have kind of mentioned every once in a while. That can also help for people sticking around and organizing games. That's highly important. And I just think it's always been more effort than we expected when we looked into it. So it's just been lower priority because of just how much effort it would be compared to some of the others. And this person's asking again about community is one big guild. Yeah, you should view it as catch-up mechanics for daily, weekly, monthly achievement. Like again, the repeatables will be way different next season. So next season there doesn't need to be a catch-up mechanic because of the way that repeatables are changed. But I mean catch up, I don't know if they mean in sense of like getting relics or something like that. Like not just you just have to play the game. Some of the relics are intended as a currency to be a long-term currency system, like year, 2, 3 years, stuff like that before you kind of get this. So yeah, I think that's all of them.
Yeah, I think so too.
That we're going to. And then we do have, there's a few more community interaction things coming up soon. We're not going to reveal what that is. Pay attention to the community updates in the next month or two. There's going to be some cool opportunities for the community to get involved. But we don't want to spoil anything right now more than that, but just pay attention to it. There'll be some stuff coming up that, I'm sure that people will be excited about and be able to interact more with us in a similar way to this. And yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And as always, on the 1st of the month, we release our community updates. So be sure to check that out. We will always announce stuff in those things as well. The season is entering its final month next month, the fire season. So be sure to finish up any challenges you have left or save up some relics in the next season. The current Season 2 release date is scheduled for the 1st of October. We'll do our best to make that release date. Fingers crossed for that one.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
I think we'll make it's going to be close. I think it's
going to be close. It's going to be close. We'll make it. I think so too. We somehow perform excellent with approaching deadline. Yeah, don't forget to join the Dealing with Trouble event that's running currently. It's basically upload your replay of Heart of Trouble and have a chance of a booster. And there's also a PvP tournament coming up. All of this and more in the next community update as well, so you can reread it there. For those who joined later, this will also be recorded and I believe posted on YouTube as well. And yeah, today it was just me and Windhunter and Ultralord behind the scenes. A lot of thanks for that. But of course, Skylords Reborn is has a giant team of volunteers behind it. So we didn't name everyone by name, but all of this wouldn't be possible without a team behind us. So big thanks to the team, and of course a big thanks to the whole community. And thanks for Windhunter for joining me today.
Yes. And I hope people enjoyed this, and if people like this in the future and we get a good response, hopefully we can do it more than maybe once every year and a half.
Yeah, for sure. But it was fun, and I think there were some interesting questions, and I hope people liked it, and it helps to see a bit more what we're up to behind the scenes. So, unless you have anything else to say, I think this is it. Do you want to do the closing statement?
Oh, I mean, I don't know what to say. I'll just say thank you for playing. Thank you for being with us now for almost 5 years. It's been an absolutely awesome journey, and I'll see you all in the Forge.
See you in the Forge, fellow Skylords.